This is the Protech Strider SNG, built by one of my favorite companies, Protech. And then in collaboration with Strider, who makes undoubtedly really cool knives. They're a little outside of my price range, to be honest, and I'm kind of hesitant with unless it's like a Spyderco, I'm kind of hesitant with frame locks, and I'm not really like personally a liner lock fan either, though I have only had one knife, well actually two knives with liner lock issues, and I have a Spyderco military frame lock and a Spyderco military liner lock, and they're both flawless. So there's that. But I've had two liner locks that are an issue, and then I've seen some reviews online where people are like real, I don't know, maybe they're getting it dialed in now, but it seems like a lot of the videos are whining, or not whining, but talking about their liner lock issues, where I'm just like, well, gee, I mean, and this is just coming from me, I could get a Benchmade axis lock and pretty much not have any issues. So for me, Benchmade axis locks, along with autos, sight opening autos, push button, are kind of like my bread and butter. And I have, I don't have it with me, but as far as Protech goes, I do have, 2 years ago I bought a Brand 1, the large Protech Brand auto. I would like to get a Brand 3, which is their 3 3/4 inch blade too. No, maybe I don't, because I mean, I like the knife, but it's kind of got it's got like a kind of a clip point, which is awesome, but then it's got this gnarly swedge on top. I don't know. It's not exactly, it's a neat knife, but it's not one that I would carry to work or anything like that. Though I have, but okay. So anyway, back to this. This thing is really cool. And I can look at those Strider knives and think, man, I really like one, but they're outside my price range. And then honestly, this is the SNG, the SMF. Strider SMF is the bigger one, and I wish the Protech, and I would definitely get one if Protech comes out with the SMF, the bigger one. Because I think this is 3 1/4 or 3 1/2 inch blade. I can't really remember. And then it's got their typical 1300s blade stock, which is great. It's good. It's pretty much Benchmade always rocks like an 1/8 inch, and this is maybe just a tad over an 1/8. And I really like this knife. It does have a safety. Let's see here. I think. Maybe that safety only works when it's... That's kind of interesting, isn't it? I never use it, so maybe it... No, there we go. Okay, so yeah, it's got safety. I never do use these. I don't use it on this knife, and I don't use it on this either. I mean, this one's actually kind of a problem, because sometimes it can get easily engaged. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's like I don't need it. Now, the newer ones, the 9051s, they have a bigger button in it. It sticks out a little bit more, and it's much more sensitive than this. I can, like in thick leather work gloves, I can use this, because I just know what it feels like. But it is smaller and more recessed than the newer ones. So maybe they're trying to improve on that for gloves. But I mean, like, I have, like, government issue firefighting gloves, which I don't know if you're not familiar with those. They're like, it's like going to a store and you can buy a pair of leather work gloves, but these ones are thicker, so you can actually grip, and they're not like gauntlet style or anything, but you can pick up hot, burning coals, that are hot for a brief amount of time and move them. Some of those other ones, like you buy at the store, they're quite thin. Like, if you have a cheaper pair of, like, they're more comfortable, but you do grab. So point being that they're thick, but I've done it long enough, and this is what I always have. I mean, I can easily, open that up and use it, put it away. So there's that. This one has the bigger button. So let's just get this one out of the way, because this review is going to be simply on this guy. It is a beautiful knife. I like the pocket clip that it comes with. Though, as previously stated in other videos, I do prefer tip down. But on this knife, actually maybe tip up's cool because this part's showing. And I mean, it just looks cool, you know? You got that in your pocket. And it's not like I'm trying to, like, cheat and people think I'm carrying a Strider because, like, people generally don't know. I think the community of knife people is pretty limited. Like, I mean, I'd be surprised if anybody that I know or work with or people I run into out on fires, if I ever saw somebody with a Strider, I'd be like, wow, hey, that's a really nice knife. And I know that because of YouTube. When in fact, I've never seen one in real life. But anyway, this one it's cool. I guess this is titanium. It's real simple design. It's got that little hook that hooks into the frame or the handle. It's got this jimping down here. It's got the lanyard tube. This knife, the way this differs from perhaps other knives built by Protech for Strider, is that it's knurled. And it's really neat too, because I mean, it's aluminum. This is aluminum and it's knurled. And I've never taken this to work, and I won't. I don't plan on ever taking this to work, but I have carried this quite a bit, and I've dropped it. It's been dropped. I went to a bike shop one day, and it's kind of this old school business building, and then like old school wood glass door. I'm just saying it because like the whatever you call it, where you shut the doorknob and it goes in together, and then there's like that metal flange on the doorway. I don't really know what those are called. But this thing, I was walking in, that's actually hooked really hard. And I mean, like, it jerked me aside. And all it did was kind of pull this out a little bit. I was like, shit, because I hoped I didn't bend the clip or bend that little hook there. But when I got home, I noticed it. I noticed that it was moved. And so I just loosened up the Torx and slid it back over. And the thing didn't lose any retention. Isn't bent. I mean, just like brand new. And it looked like it had scuffed it up a little bit from that God, I can't remember what it's called, but that door stop thing that, the doorknob fits into. Probably, I don't know if it's made of brass or what, but it did scuff this up, but then I just was able to wipe away with my finger. And that's not my first experience with Protech finishes, because they're pretty good. I mean, that Brend, I did carry that on a couple fires a couple years ago when I got it. Because I was like, yeah, I want like a 4.5-inch bladed auto knife. But I got it, and I took it out, and I was like, this thing, it's not really meant for this. This is this Benchmade, these are much better. That 3.5-inch blade, I don't know. They're better. I mean, I don't know what I use that Brend for out there. I think it's just a cool knife. And I'll carry it daily, and I don't care. I could be at the post office and pull that thing out. I could care less. Granted, I don't live in cities. I generally live in small towns, but even like some of the bigger towns I live in, I'm in sometimes, like, I really don't care either way. Personally, I mean, I'm obviously not going to go flash that thing around. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that type of person. I'm trying to rub it in people's faces. It's just like kind of the last thing in my mind. So getting back to this though, or getting back to that Brend, it did get scuffed up because I run a chainsaw. You got chaps on. There's metal thing. There's, stuff that gets rubbed against it, and the pocket clip appeared on that. It's their black oxidized, or whatever you call black oxide clips, and it appeared to get scuffed up. But I could actually just kind of smooth it out with my finger, and those marks were gone. Same with the handles, and this one's even tougher because it's knurled, and I mean. And it's banged on stuff. I've dropped it on the ground, and it doesn't, nothing against Benchmade, but you drop one of these bad boys on the ground. I mean, this is just pocket wear here. I still haven't dropped this thing, luckily, on concrete, though I have my other ones. The only real wear showing on it is the clip, but these little marks, that's just, incidental, I guess. Tools banging up against it. But getting back to this, try to stay focused here. They do a really good job on their aluminum. This is a really good knife. And the one thing I really like about it too, the Strider style Q or construction styles, they got these stop pins here. They're not thumb studs because it's an auto. So I think if it was their frame lock, I suppose that that's totally thumb studs. but then it also goes into there, and it helps to kind of anchor the knife in. Because this is a really rigid, stiff knife. And I do like the finger choil. I do like that blade grind. It's a pretty good slicer. And it's actually, I don't know if you could tell, but it is stone washed. Pretty neat. And it's got this jimping up here on the blade. It's really good. Now, excuse me. The worst, or the one thing about this knife, and it could be my hand size, though I don't think so, because it's literally this point right here. If I grab it in a regular hammer grip, actually hits like dang near the center of my palm, at least like a third, like, so it's hitting like right in here. It is actually uncomfortable, and I haven't used this for extended cutting, but it wouldn't be very good for out in the bush. I don't think. Maybe you would have to really learn how to operate. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's not that bad. But if you did get back here and really get after it, that does. And I have used it, and it is a pressure point, at least for me. And that is not Protech's fault. That's just, I would imagine that's Strider's design. Maybe the SMF, the bigger handle, maybe that alleviates that. I don't know. But as far as this knife goes and what it's for, I mean, it's like a tactical knife, right? So actually in reverse grip, it's absolutely, I mean, it's perfect. Like, I don't know. I'm not a knife fighter, but I suppose that's kind of what that's designed for. And then even if you held it like this and you're stabbing somebody, I mean, that just anchors in your palm. So this isn't like, I'd imagine a real fieldcraft knife. It is definitely a tactile knife, so I'm not complaining about that whatsoever. Yeah, it's got a hell of a strong spring. Smooth. Beautiful, beautiful knife. This is my favorite knife. And the design, like, honestly, for all around, carry out in the bush, out in the woods. And then also tactical. I'm sure, like I said, I'm not a knife fighter, though I wouldn't hesitate to stab somebody with that, or any kind of rabid dog if they try to attack me, just like right in the throat. Just, okay, I'm joking about that. Perhaps a chipmunk. But seriously, I do prefer this one. I think this is a better design. I mean, but the craftsmanship on this. See, this is like kind of an industrial tool. I think this is a work of art. And it was only $200, give or take $10. I can't really remember what I paid for it. I've had it for a year. I got it from DLT Trading. And they had it listed for a little bit more than another online. I can't remember who the other online was, but DLT Trading does price match. I said, hey, I'd rather buy from you guys for many reasons. Because when I do buy knives from DLT, they, bam, like right out the door, you get they have a really cool tracking kind of program, their own, and then it gets linked up with UPS or Postal Service or whomever they're using. And I mean, like, we're talking there in Wisconsin. I'm clear out in the West Coast. Like, it's, to me, in like 2.5 days. Like, the day I order it, it's out the door. And it's like 2 days, and then 2 days later, like, it's at my doorstep. I mean, that's awesome. So, you order it on a Wednesday, I guess you get it on a Friday. And if it's mail, just in case it doesn't get there on Friday, you're going to get it Saturday. It's really cool. So, like, I highly recommend DLT Trading, and that's where I got this. Let's see here. Also, the AFO, the 9051, just to do everybody justice. This knife design is from the late 90s, I think, because I had one that was built in 2002, and I had it for many years. And this one, I think, is actually newer. I think these were going until 2006, so this was built sometime after 2002 and previous to 2006, because it does have a little bit difference. It does have that hexagonal stop pin in there, which I guess is preferable. So the new one is a little bit more refined than this. Probably has better features, though I do prefer this one. I do prefer that version. So I'm not trying to compare this to that at all. That is what it is, and this is what it is. And the thing is, though, honestly, I think this is just as tough as that. But I just don't think that it's quite as good of an all-around knife, though it is a really nice knife. So it's got 154 cm. I think it's a 3.5 inch blade, give or take a tenth. It's got a titanium pocket clip. It's pretty, comparison wise, let's see if I can do this with one hand because I'm using my phone, obviously. It is a little bit narrower, handle width wise, than this. Though it does carry deep or wider in the pocket, takes up more room. And it's probably more uncomfortable just because it's got more jagged edges on it, squared off, whereas this is, what do you call that? It's rounded, chamfered maybe a little bit, and the newer ones might even be more chamfered. Those, still a flat knife. I mean, it's not going to rock. Like it's, you know, it's more mostly flat, but it's chamfered the edges, where this is really not. Everything's on it's pretty sharp, but hey, it is what it is. It's designed, it's a tactical knife. Let's be honest. Plus, like, I mean, shoot, you know, that's a pretty high flat grind there on that. A little bit of saber, I guess. Still got a good tip. Pretty good. It's up there pretty fine. Kind of unique, kind of a leaf shape, maybe. Well, it's a Strider thing. And I'm not, like I said, I've never seen a Strider in person. I don't own one, and though, I mean, I look at them and I would really like one. They're just outside of my price range. So this is the best I could, you know, this is, plus it's Protech. In my experience, them, like a lot of their stuff, I'm not like an Italian stiletto guy. They make a lot of those. But pretty much what's caught my eye that they do make that Emerson auto, and that's like kind of a sore spot for me is Emerson. Their designs are cool, and half of their materials and workmanship is good, and the other half is not. So if I could get a Protech Emerson like CKC7, I will do it. And they are available. It's just not quite up on my list of things I want right now, but as soon as they come out with it, or as soon as I kind of get around to that, I certainly would not mind picking one up. But this guy, highly recommend it. Not a field knife, I don't think, just because of this and some of the other handle features. However, really cool daily carry. Cut one thing, put it away. Cut a couple things, put it away. I just don't think it's good for extended cutting. And then I think it's really good for self-defense. I would think, definitely. That's kind of what it is. Along with being a good cutter, because it's got that high flat grind, that high, really nice grind. And it is. I have cut fruit. And it's got that 154 cm, which is one of my favorites. Real easy to work with. Doesn't rust. Protech does a really good job with theirs as well, because with that brand I made a few mistakes. Hit some metal, you know, like some metal things when I was cutting through other things, like cutting open a cardboard box to get like large metal fittings, like hose fittings, like fire hose fittings that are in there. And I went to cut in a couple boxes, and I kept going all the way through and hitting the brass. Some of it's brass, some of it's aluminum, some of it's some kind of steel. But all those things were getting nailed by me, and it didn't nick up that blade at all. Didn't nick up the finish. So, and the prices on these are really, I mean, right in there, if not low. I mean, you know, because this guy retails, I never pay retail for Benchmade, but this thing retails, the 9051 might retail for $250, $225, $270. I don't know. I shouldn't say this. This might be upwards of $225, $215, $205, somewhere in there. So it's not much cheaper, but God, I don't know. So strike that from the conversation. Okay, hopefully people will enjoy this video one way or the other. I think these are pretty garbled, but I try to get them in before I go do other things. So I have other things in my mind right now. But I do have this knife. I really like it. Not a whole lot of videos out there on it. But again, I really think it's a really cool knife. Really well put together. Really cool how they did that aluminum. It's not really like I've used this for years type thing. It's just a kind of a first impression, but I have had it and I have carried it and I have used it, so it's not really first impression. But it hasn't been hard used and I haven't used it extensively. But I can tell, like my bet is that when I do, if and when I do, that I will be even more happier than I am right now with it. All right. Hope you enjoy the rest of whatever you're up to, because I'm going to go enjoy some sunshine now. Have a good one.